Hello, and welcome to the Movie Nerds podcast. Before we get into the show today, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to our new affiliate podcast, which is, of course, Scripthappens. Now, if you guys haven't heard of these guys, it's okay. Everything will be all right. All you need to do to check these guys out is to go to facebook.com and type into your newsfeed Scripthappens in all one word. Now, these guys are really awesome because they're going to kind of be a nice counterpoint to what we're doing here with the Movie Nerds podcast. And in case you guys haven't seen the show, Scripthappens is a movie news / game news / geek pop culture podcast. Now, if this appeals to you, I think you guys should definitely check Scripthappens out. I've had the opportunity to check about 3 or 4 of their episodes out, and they're really awesome, and they're really funny. So if you guys feel so inclined, you can find them on Facebook. You can also find them on YouTube by typing in Scripthappens, again, one word. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And you guys can also find them on podbean.com, where you can find some of their past episodes, which are audio only. Now, this partnership is going to be really great for us because, again, it's going to provide a nice counterpoint to what we're doing here, but it'll also help us both get some exposure, which is, you know, the ultimate goal. We're trying to gain listeners and fans of the show. So if you guys feel so inclined, make sure to check them out. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Podbean. They're really awesome. So please make sure to show them some love, and they will be showing us love in the future. So on to our episode. The Everman Nerds podcast. My name is Taylor Salen, and joining me today is
Kurt Hall.
How you doing tonight, man?
I am good.
All right. So we are gonna do a little bonus episode here. We're gonna go ahead and do a review of Star Trek Into Darkness. Now, Kurt just got back from seeing the movie. I was able to see it Thursday night. And I want to know kind of just your general thoughts about Star Trek Into Darkness, because I know, you know, we talked a little bit about this on the summer movie preview, and we all seem pretty hyped about it. I mean, so why don't you talk about your expectations and kind of your general thoughts on the movie?
I went in with pretty high expectations. I really like the first movie from J.J. Abrams, and I mean, everything from Abrams himself tends to have that intriguing factor to it that makes me very excited. And man, the trailers for Into Darkness looked amazing, and the casting, we already know the casting is amazing. But I think I liked it a lot, but there was just something missing, and it kind of felt a little sloppy at times, but it's still a very good film.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely have some problems with it, which we'll get into in spoilers here in a couple minutes. But overall, I mean, I thought, for the most part, J.J. Abrams and Bob Orci and who else was it? Damon Lindelof and Alex Kurtzman, who wrote the screenplay for this one, did a decent job of kind of extending the spirit of the first one, you know, and the promise that the first one showed. So with that being said, what did you think about the cast in this one? Like, was there a particular standout for you? I mean, did you feel that, first of all, I mean, did you feel that any of the characters didn't get their due? I guess that's the big question I have for you.
I wouldn't say, I guess Zoe Saldana's character kind of gets the shaft a lot in this movie, because she kind of plays a character that is, instead of being a main part of the story, she kind of just turns into Spock's girlfriend in this one. And I think that's kind of annoying,
Yeah.
um, especially for as good of an actress as she is. But everyone else in the movie seemed to do a really good job. I thought that Chris Pine does a fantastic job in this movie, even more so than the first film.
Yeah.
And Zachary Quinto is just brilliant in this movie.
Hmm.
Like he was good as Spock the first time, but this performance as Spock is pretty amazing. Because a lot of this film really hinges on his performance and his change in character.
Well, yeah, I think the same goes for Kirk. I was really surprised when I, finished watching this movie how big of an arc Kirk has, and for a character that's pretty much one note most of the time, that was a very surprising thing for me. I didn't
Yeah,
really expect that going in. And with that being said, I think for the most part, the first two acts of this movie are pretty great. I didn't really have too many problems with it. Then again, I had certain expectations, with all the rumors and things going on about this movie and who the villain was and who he might be. And I think the third act just really, really dropped the ball, in my opinion, though. Like, there's a lot of inconsistencies. I think the true fault of this movie is the writing and the sloppiness of the writing, in the third act in particular. I mean, it's one thing to think you're being clever and smart and trying to do things differently than they've been done before in the Trek universe, with certain things. And I really didn't. I thought they were. Let me see. How should I put this? They seemed like they were being smart, and yet they really weren't. They thought they were being smart and witty, and I didn't think some of that stuff was really that smart and witty. I mean, just it seemed like, okay, well, this has been done, so we're gonna do it this way, just because it hasn't been done. So
yeah. It kind of teeters that line between trying to do something new, but at the same time, what they're doing is kind of not new.
mhm.
It kind of reminded me of the, not to compare it to another summer blockbuster, but what Iron Man 3 tries to do. Like, it tries to
Mhm.
be edgy and it tries to do something different, but it ends up kind of ruining the tone of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's a little more evident than Iron Man in Iron Man 3 than in this. I think the tone in this one is pretty even for the most part. It's pretty well directed by J.J. Abrams, and what
Yeah.
really surprised me is, whereas the first one was a really a character a character centric movie where there was a lot of emphasis put on the relationships between these people, with spurts of action here and there. This movie is really an action movie, kind of, with the roles reversed in a way. Like, it's an action movie, but it still has those character moments kind of laced in between all the big set pieces this movie has. Um, so speaking of that, what did you think of the action?
The action scenes are amazing. The opening sequence of this film is probably one of the more memorable opening sequences we're going to get in the year 2013. Like, that volcano is just so beautifully done. Like, this is how effective CGI can look at times. And man, he tightens the tension in that scene. Like, just, I don't want to go into it,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of tension going on in that scene. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they have one character doing one thing to distract from the volcano, and like, one of the stories are kind of funny because they're playing jokes along with it, and then the Spock part is dead serious,
Yeah.
and it kind of contrasts well with each other. But even kind of goes even deeper in the movie too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the ending action sequences are all beautifully shot,
Yeah.
and they are very, I don't want to say realistic because this is Star Trek,
Yeah.
but they're very well done for a sci-fi film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's I actually liked all the action sequences with one in particular, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's kind of one that takes place on another planet, we'll say. And I just didn't think that. I mean, you guys that have seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Um, but going back to the action, especially that opening, kind of prologue, if you will, in a way. really is nice. It's really well written because it actually goes to inform the things that kind of develop later on in the film, and it actually like sets a lot of things up. Which, most summer movies, they just open with a mindless action scene just for action's sake, to get people ready for what's coming, I guess. And I mean, I like that stuff too, but there's a certain point where, you know, these movies I'm referring to, Transformers, I'm talking to you, are like 2.5 hours. I mean, I made a mention, like we were talking in the group, and I was like, it's nice to see a movie that's like 2 hours, but it's still just as action packed because these things are all interspersed between, into the action scenes, and they're kind of layered in there, in a nice way. But again, all that just kind of goes down the toilet towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, I would
So
agree. I would also tend to say that Into Darkness is a lesser film than the first Star Trek film, in my opinion, because it kind of lets the plot take a back seat a lot of the time. And what I like about the original Star Trek is it's character driven. It's not action scene driven stuff.
exactly.
And I felt like this one was more of a popcorn movie,
Hmm.
whereas the first one is that cerebral type of sci-fi that I prefer.
Yeah. No, yeah, I completely get where you're coming from. But I just had a really fun time watching this movie. As much as it kind of angered me towards the end, I still had a really great time. And this is really rare for me. I mean, I sat there watching it, and as soon as it ended, I'm like, wow, really? Was it over that quickly? Like, the pace was just incredible. It was just very, very fast paced. And I think that's something, like you said, it just goes to that summer popcorn mentality. Um, so I don't know. Is there anything? Oh, actually, let's talk about what did you think of Benedict Cumberbatch as John Harrison?
He's really good. I don't know if I would say he was great because I don't know if there's that much going on with his character. He kind of plays the same notes over and over again in the movie,
Yeah,
but there's just something about a guy with a voice like that. It's just so menacing, and the way he kind of walks around and the way he just talks to everyone is just it's so menacing and terrifying.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I agree that the character, there's problems with the character as far as the script level is concerned. But I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch, for what he's given, I mean, he does a really great job, in my opinion. I mean, I think this movie is really going to put him on the map. I think it's gonna make him a not maybe not a household name, but at least amongst movie fans, a very recognizable name to look forward to in the future. But I mean, just the character that he plays, there's not a lot of explanation to the motivations of the character, to try to jump around things. I don't understand what motivates this guy. And as much as ambiguity can be a good thing, I think too much ambiguity, like in the case of this movie, is a bad thing for me. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about this before we jump into spoilers.
I agree. The ambiguity is a major problem in this movie, and I just want to say Benedict Cumberbatch is kind of already a big name because I mean he's done other pretty notable films like
Yeah,
Tinker
but
Tailor
not. I
Soldier
mean, he's
Spy.
not. Well, yeah, but nobody in America saw that. It was a total bomb in America, and that's the thing. He's probably very well known overseas, especially in the UK and things like that. But uh, I don't think a lot of people know who this guy is. I mean, I know some people have watched Sherlock. I know I haven't, but I've known about him being in that show for a very long time. So I think this movie could really put him on the radar as far as like an American audience is concerned, I guess, is what I was
Yeah,
trying
this
to get at.
this could kind of be like kind of like when Fassbender did X-Men First Class, where you kind of take a
Exactly.
guy who's very skilled and put him on a big screen
Hmm.
level.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think he's. I'm really looking forward to see his motion capture performance in The Hobbit. That's the last two Hobbit films. That's going to be an interesting one for me because it seems like when this guy's playing a bad guy, he can do menacing, but kind of an over the top menacing. in a really good way. I mean, he's obviously not over the top in this movie, but it just kind of it seems like he'd be very good at that type of thing. And of course, when you're doing motion capture, you always have to be over the top because you're kind of exaggerating the movements of this huge creature. So I don't know. That's a huge tangent, but is there anything else you want to kind of touch on before we move into spoilers?
I think I'm good.
All right. Okay, so with that being said, you guys know the drill. We're going to completely ruin the movie for you. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you guys wait to watch this portion until you have seen it. Make sure to come back. We will still be here when you come. So let's talk about the third act of this movie, I guess. What were your issues? Because I want to see what you have to say first, and then I'll kind of chime in.
I found it to be very predictable. Very, very predictable. Like the scene when Kirk and Khan go from the USS Enterprise into the other ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they actually name that ship, but they go on there and they sneak on. The whole time I'm thinking Khan's just gonna screw him over at the end. Yeah. The whole time it's just so obvious. This guy's too slippery. You can't really get a hold of him. And even then, they have to add pointless tension. Like when Simon Pegg or Scotty has to get held up by one of the guys in there, even though no one could find him for like 45 minutes in the ship. Like, all of a sudden they found him.
No,
and it had to be right at that.
I would rebut that because he was messing with the door. Remember, he had unlocked the protocols to the door so that he could manually override it. And then they found him after he had done that. Because before he was just... Well, no, I guess he had shut the ship down before that, hadn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wrong. But
yeah,
still,
so
it
just felt convenient for that guy to just show up at that time.
I guess I can agree with that.
And... I don't know. You could have played it off like a cool laugh. Like, he could have been standing there when Kirk and Khan come in there, and Kirk or Khan could have hit him, and that would have been a lot more satisfying to me than what they did there.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the ship, the whole time, it's like halfway through when they get to the deck, Kirk is like, I think we're helping him. I'm like, I know you're helping him. Like, how did you not catch on to that before you even attempted this?
No, I guess I don't quite buy that though, because you have to think they're and this is getting super geeky, but whatever. This is what I like to talk about. So they're stuck. They're stranded. He realizes that the enemy ship, that we'll just call it the Black Ship, is going to eventually reboot and just blast them out of the sky. So, he realizes that that's his only choice, is to join forces with Khan, It's kind of one of those moments where the good guy and the bad guy have to get together, to kind of do the common goal that they need to do, So, I mean, I guess that's the reasoning behind it as far as I'm concerned, but it's still flimsy, It's still flimsy.
But at the same time...
And that's a lot of, like, guessing on, that's making inferences on my part and not what's actually shown in the film, But
at the same time, leading up to that point, Khan really doesn't do that many bad things. Like, he does one bad thing at the beginning of the film when he does the bombing.
Well, and then he shoots up the Starfleet command as well.
Yeah, but like compared to what he's going to do next, I never felt like he never fully grew as a villain up to that point. So I was expecting, I mean, he's going to do something bigger. He's got something bigger planned than just, blowing up a building in London and doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, once again, that's one of my minor gripes. I can live.
Yeah, it's a nitpick.
With that.
It's a nitpick. But see, that's a lot of the... Normally I'm okay with a few nitpicks, like Iron Man 3. All the stuff I talked about and that I had problems with were really just nitpicks, But I mean, in this movie, there's just so damn many of them, especially towards the end. And there's one thing in particular that I just did not understand the point of, which is, of course, Kirk dying and then 5 minutes later being magically resurrected. That just pissed me off. I mean, I thought it was pretty ballsy of them at least to do the same thing Wrath of Khan was doing, I mean, and obviously, not very surprised by the Khan reveal at all. I don't know if many people were. Um, but like, I mean, in the theater, these guys, like, as soon as he said Khan, like this group of guys that were down below me, they're all like surprised, and I'm like, wow, really? Because I wasn't surprised at all by this. But I mean,
we've known who he's been playing for like 3 months now. Like,
yeah.
who's really surprised?
Exactly, and that's the thing. I thought his acting in that moment when he reveals himself was really great. Like, his delivery was pretty menacing. You know, I mean, you've got to live up to, I mean, what is considered the best Star Trek movie, you know, in Wrath of Khan. And I think Benedict Cumberbatch really realized that and tried to make the best of it, you know. I mean, I think he did a really great job with that moment, as much as I didn't like the scripting portion of it.
Yeah.
So
that was
go ahead.
That was another one of my problems with the movie. Was instead of telling the story through dialogue between the characters, they just kind of build it all up to one scene right in the middle, where Khan just basically tells the whole story in a nutshell. And I hated that, because you can tell the story without just having it in a 10-minute sequence of dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And at the same time, you know, you have to realize that the original Khan episode of the original series, Space Seed, was 15 years before they actually did Wrath of Khan, you know. So people had watched the show, they saw the movies, they did all these things, and you know, people kind of have a relationship with these characters. They grow to care for these characters. And it seemed like they tried to compress the events of both Space Seed and the Wrath of Khan into like the second half of this movie. You know, especially like that montage. That's basically Space Seed, you know? It's about them unfreezing the things, and all those details are changed, and they put a new twist on some things. You don't have that. I mean, there's only been one movie so far with this particular cast, and although the characters are the same, they are different in certain respects. So you kind of, for them to have done the actual Khan, which was another moment where I almost, like, I just lowered my head in disbelief, you know. I mean, it was handled well, again, by Zachary Quinto. He did the best that he could do with it. But it's just on the scripting level, it's like, I don't understand the motivation behind doing that and then just resurrecting the character magically in like 10 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was a big killer in the movie.
Oh my god, as soon as I saw that thing moving, I'm like, "Oh no, they didn't. Oh no, they didn't. Yep, they did." You know, I was just like shaking my head, but I mean, you know, it just goes back to that, not having the relationship built up with these actors, you know, as the original crew yet. It doesn't make it as poignant. It doesn't make it as powerful. And although I'm not a huge Star Trek nerd, you know, you still have a relationship built with these characters just through just through pop culture. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, because especially Tommy and I kind of talked about this on our Star Trek episode. You know, like, you have the Bones catchphrases, which just about everybody knows. You have the Vulcan peace sign. You have the Vulcan death grip. All these things have kind of melted their way into pop culture. And I mean, I just find it interesting, you know, that this movie tried to do that so quickly, and it's kind of a failure in my opinion. But I don't know. So.
I would agree. I think that was one of the things that really killed the momentum.
Yeah. So, I mean, what did you think of... We didn't get to talk about this particular character yet, but what did you think of Alice Eve's character and Peter Weller's character? I mean, they seemed pointless. I know... Okay, I understand that Alice Eve's character eventually becomes a major plot point, you know, and that she's necessary to move the story forward at a certain point. You know, when they're all on the deck of the black ship or whatever it is. I don't even know the name, but I understand the reasoning behind that. But she's just so wasted in this movie, you know, so wasted.
Okay. Just to get out of the way, I'm not a big fan of Alice Eve as an actress. Like, if you want me to take your movie seriously with a female actress, Alice Eve is not the one to go with. Yeah. And then to have her be this conduit by which the film launches off of at a certain point, that's just annoying. And then let's not even get into the fact that her father in the movie is speaking normal American accent and she's speaking in a British accent, which makes no sense since they were raised
Yeah.
together. Like that was another one of the little things that don't make any sense in this movie.
That's for sure a nitpick, but I actually didn't even think about that until you pointed it out, but it is kind of weird because it just disconnects these characters even more, you know.
That and there's that specific scene when Kirk looks back at Alice Eve in a bikini. I'm
Yeah.
like, why is this shot in this movie? The shot doesn't even matter.
I know. It's supposed to. I actually thought they were going to become like she was going to become Kirk's love interest, but that didn't go. That went absolutely nowhere, and that would have actually been a interesting thing for her character to kind of to kind of explore her character a little bit instead of just her standing around in her bikini or just her standing around on the bridge waiting to give spout out a bunch of exposition. You know, it's just it seems kind of like a waste, which obviously you agree with. So, is there anything else you want to talk about? Let's kind of talk about the opening scene there. I thought that was actually that and the scene on the Klingon planet because that was the one I was talking about where I thought it was really horribly done. It felt like out of all the action scenes, that one was really chopped up. Like it's like they said, "Oh shit, we just can't figure this action scene out. Let's bring in like one of Michael Bay's editors." You know, because there's no every other I'm serious though. Every other action scene, and even in the first one, you have a sense of place and where people are, you know, in the environment. And in that scene in particular, I understood Benedict Cumberbatch's, you know, Khan was firing at the Klingons from this like clock tower or whatever. You know, he was standing above them, but when they're all running around fighting, there's no sense of direction. You know, it actually kind of gave me a headache. But then you look at the opening sequence, which is just so well done, you
Well,
know, and
even the scene before the Klingon fight, when they're driving the passenger ship through the that little crack,
yeah,
like that is amazing.
yeah. See, and I completely
And
forgot about that.
and that's how bad the scene is after that, because it takes you to this great scene through a chase through space, and then all of a sudden it turns into this really choppy, messed up kind of Star Trek gunfight, which
Yeah.
it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
really
And it was just
make any
I
sense.
just don't think it was edited well. I'm sure it was probably great when they shot it, but it felt like one of those hand-to-hand scenes where you know the people really aren't fighting and they're kind of half know the moves and they have to really chop it up to make it seem interesting. That's what it
Hmm.
felt like to me, you know. But at the same time, I have to credit Abrams and the writers for making every action scene different. You know, there's something. I mean, you have a foot chase, you have the kind of fist fight, gunfight, you know, on the Klingon planet. You have a starship chase. You have a Mexican standoff with two ships. You have the scene of it crashing to Earth. So there's something different going on in each action scene, which is a good thing in my opinion because at least it doesn't get stale. You know. And I don't
Yeah, I
know.
agree.
I mean, like, I'm kind of glad though. At the same time, they toned down on the amount of monsters in this movie. I got really scared when I saw a monster in the first opening, like 3 minutes of the movie. I was like, "Oh God, here we go, more Cloverfield monsters." Like, because that's what they all reminded me of in the first Star Trek. It's as cool as those scenes were, you know. It's just I don't know. I think J.J. Abrams has a fascination with monsters.
He really does. That scene in the first Star Trek is ridiculous because it's like a big monster chasing him
Yeah,
or chasing Kirk, and then all of a sudden a bigger one comes out of the ground, and it's like,
yeah.
why
It's
did
like
we
the
need the bigger
It's
one?
like
Like,
the episode one scene that takes place underwater, where like there's the three levels of fish.
yeah, yeah.
God, it totally reminded me of that, man. Um, yeah. So I mean, let's go ahead and rate this. Let's rate this bad boy. What would you give this one, Kurt?
At first I had a grade, and then we talked about it. I'm gonna give Star Trek Into Darkness a 7 out of 10.
Oh, interesting. You know, I think I'd also give it a 7 out of 10. It's not perfect, but it's really fun. You know, like as many of the problems as I had with it, I'm gonna go back and see it again probably tomorrow. So hopefully Tommy will be seeing it soon. Of course, he's always lagging with these new releases. Got to call him out on the podcast. So hopefully I'll see it again and maybe get some clarification on some of the smaller issues that I had, and we can talk about it again in the future. So with that being said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys want to join the group or you have any feedback for any of our episodes, you can always email us. All right, so with all that being said, my name is Taylor Salen, and joining me is...
Kurt Hall.
Cool, man. We'll see you next time. Hopefully we'll be back next weekend. I don't know if... I know we're both going to be seeing Fast and Furious 6, but I'll probably be seeing both that and Hangover, so maybe we can do a dual review next week.
I think I might be able to make that happen.
All right, cool, man. Well, we'll see you then.
See you then.